to want to play, we might end up seeing him go for that Morphling. That could definitely be a possibility. It'd be a little bit less active in the lane, but you have these two perfect morph targets on your team. You have both the Dark Will and the Gyrocopter. And yeah, they're just going to go for it.
Very good call. The setup was there, so Infamous are going to run it in, and that's something EgoBoys are going to have to be very careful of. The Luna is still going to be sort of your leader, your primary damage dealer, and in a lot of situations, the Luna, I think, can sort of hold her ground depending on how much farm she can actually find, but for the rest of the lineup, it's going to get a little bit more difficult. If that Morphling can come in with really morphing into any of his teammates, actually, for that matter, he is going to have either damage,
And
mobility,
Sand
or
King.
maybe both, as Ego...
Okay.
Okay. There's that active hero for alone that we were sort of hoping for, as they do get the Storm into their hands. That's honestly something I think is going to be a little bit better than the Sand King that they ran in Game 1.
Yeah, and while Sand King is pretty good versus the Morphling specifically, I think it was Alone who we saw killing a Morphling in side lanes pretty consistently. Storm Spirit, there's no real good counter, and they don't have a fantastic Yules builder just yet on the Infamous side. Most of them are banned out. They ban out the Lina very adeptly so, and we have Alone on the first playmaking hero he's been able to play in like 3 days. No more Sand King, no more Viper, new Alone. So I'm incredibly happy. I'm very excited. Unfortunately, we're not seeing him play sort of his signature Wind. That also would have been sort of sick. But again, back against the wall, you got to play your outs. You got to play to your strengths. We're going to see Infamous ban out a bunch of King Tekka heroes here. But if you can get on something, maybe it's not S tier, maybe it's in that B, C tier. Could still very well see the Sand King or maybe a Slardar fall to him, but they need something to go up versus this Parker Morphling, because now the lane is going to be a lot less aggressive. Their timing is shifted more to that 4 to 5 level mark, where you have that full shift up on the Morphling, and you have those both spells in the way from the Adaptive Strike, which sets A back a little bit. He's going to have to be in a 1v1 versus the Snapfire, which is what I think they wanted to set up in that previous game, in that previous draft, where it would have worked out. But unfortunately for them, Infamous just synced up with their heroes a little bit too good. So the separation is sort of there this time around, where EgoBoys should be able to isolate those 1v1s. And then I think they might be able to take a little bit of a lead here. But now you just got to focus on getting King Tech on something he's going to be able to get anything out of that lane with.
And depending on what they get, as you were mentioning, I think this might finally be a draft in which EgoBoys sort of strategy of going for maybe smaller, sort of lower scale fights and engagements might actually pay off for them. If heroes like the Storm Spirit can just sort of get in, find a quick pick, and then get out, then that sort of hit and run kind of style that, for the most part, has kind of fallen short for them in the past may actually get them the advantage that they would need to create the space and time that the Luna sort of needs to really activate herself. So we'll see what they can do here, but it is going to depend at least a little bit on what this actual choice is. A lot of those maybe more obvious picks for King Tekka have been taken away, but yeah, they did still have the Sand King, and they will go in for it.
Yeah, and it would have been great to see them pick it up, but again, I do not mind rushing that Storm Spirit pick. You do not want it to get banned out. You want it to fall to your hands. And the Sand King, again, they banned the Centaur, they banned the Mars. There are bigger heroes on their plate that they need to worry about, but Sand King will still get his job done. And versus Morphling, you do need to be careful. If you don't get that shift off, you will 100% die in that epi. The only thing EgoBoys don't really have is that follow-up disable immediately after the Burrow Strike. That's probably going to have to come in from your Storm Spirit, and then EgoBoys, they've still got to play good Dota. They've still got to play as a team. While those fights are going to be sort of small scale, they are going to be split across the map a little bit. If they are successful in their endeavors, you have a very good farming lineup at the same time. All of these heroes do very well. Snapfire has the Shard, has the Blink Dagger, has the Kai Sanj build. You're able to scale up very well on that hero. At the same time, Storm Sand King, Storm is one of the best heroes late game in the game. There are really not that many heroes that can contest with him. It's just sort of that sort of mid-game period where he has maybe 1400, 1500 mana that game does sort of get rough. And you are getting counterpicked a little bit here by KXY, but now it's just going to be a battle of the Orchids. This is just classic Dota. Who gets their Orchid first? Who makes the play a little bit earlier? Who gets the rune? This is back to basics for really both teams here.
And yeah, we'll be watching that mid lane with interest to see exactly who sort of comes out ahead, the Quap or the Storm. And it's not going to be sort of the end all be all, but as you said, whichever sort of hero can get to that item first is really going to be able to sort of dictate to a certain extent where and when some of those fights happen over the first maybe 15 to 20, somewhere in that time frame, maybe slightly beyond that point as well. But the fact remains, it is going to be a race to that Orchid in the middle lane, and, well, I don't know. Actually, I think at a certain point, regardless of who wins that, we're still going to be seeing the aggression coming out from both sides. If Alone doesn't get it first, it's not like he's going to suddenly not try to zip in onto those targets. But if his team gets hit up first and they sort of end up playing from behind, we've seen EgoBoys in particular sort of struggle with that. They don't really do fantastically when they are, or excuse me, when they are on that back foot. So very much going to have to get that Storm Spirit involved early and often.
Yeah, and at least this time around, it feels like they have a very similar lineup to their previous one, except now they have a better hero in basically every single position. You could argue about the Mars Sand King, but I think Sand King honestly feels so much better in this game specifically. But now, instead of a Weaver, you have this Rises Luna where you can sit behind him. You
Thanks,
can get these
guys.
plays
Thanks a lot.
made. You can really sort of make the fortress. You have that hero that is able to brute force down these towers where the Weaver, his timing is much, much further down the line. Rises, he's just going to need a Manta Style and a BKB, and then we're going to see him start to get active. And something that maybe the Storm Spirit will feel a little bit better about is that there really is very little room for that rotation to the mid lane. If Infamous do bring supports there, they're going to need to bring both, and they're going to need to get pretty lucky to get that Bramble Maze that might be before Alone hits level 6. But really, there are going to be a lot of moving parts here that, but really just the mid laners can start to make. Everybody else on both sides, they need to wait for their timings. And you have a Timber Sub. You aren't going to be able to get
Blessings upon a
active up until that
loyal
level
warrior.
6, up until you give that Hood of Defiance. Probably going to see Mariano go for a more typical build. Could see the Atos again, to be honest, just because you are very low lockdown on your team. Don't want to get too punished by the Storm Spirit. But now, EgoBoys, I think they have a lineup that they're going to feel comfortable farming with. Before, it felt like they were always losing ground. Now, at least they have something that's a little bit more 50-50.
Yeah, it just seems like in general they stand a better chance of just sort of holding their ground early on. Last time they just got completely sort of overwhelmed, and saw sort of what resulted after that is it was just Infamous pushing forward again and again and again, which could still happen. We could still see Infamous sort of get that little bit of an early edge, but EgoBoys feel like, or it feels like for their lineup, they're at least going to be able to maybe push back. Maybe they don't just win outright, but they're not going to be sort of in that panic mode that it seemed like they were in earlier on in that first match, as we see them getting pretty deep in here looking for that Obs Ward, just dropping it down directly in the lane. So they are going to have eyes on these pulls here, and potentially any courier movement as well. Might just be able to sort of snipe that out, take some of that regen away from the Morph. But the real question is, do they continue pushing for any sort of actual aggression? They're still grouped up as 5, and they're making their way mid. Could simply check for the Obs Ward mid first, but actually they walked by it here, but it's so far on that cliff that it doesn't actually
Ooh.
spot this.
Yeah, they're
As
picking him out now. The infamous Ward. I think only 1437 is he's been the only one to do his homework and get this ward off the map, because Infamous, they really do sort of place it. It's like every other game that ward is there, but again, protecting against those rotations. Don't want this Quamp to get sort of rolled upon pre-levels. There's definitely a threat of that cookie. The cookie is probably the scariest spell for both sides, where you just get that Storm Spirit right on top of the Quap, immediately into the Vortex, on top of those Remnants. That's where it could get pretty annoying.
yeah, gonna have to be very careful with that positioning. If they get sort of stunned up here, they could very much run into difficulties, as we're going to take a look at the sort of laning stage to start us off over in the top lane. Now, want to see just how aggressively Mariano plays here. Initially, in game 1, we sort of saw a slightly maybe more defensive build, the 2 points up in both the chain and the reactive armor, and then the aggression sort of came afterwards. But I don't know. Up against heroes like the Luna and the Witch Doctor, who have stuns but maybe aren't the tankiest in the world, maybe Mariano can afford to get a little bit more aggressive a little bit earlier on in that skill build, but right now, he's just going to keep on getting hit up. That reactive armor really absolutely necessary for him, considering the damage that he's taking.
Yeah, and once they get a few more levels, this lane really only gets worse. Nice denies coming out from the Infamous side, but once you get that Lunar Blessing up, Car is just going to start hitting like a truck. There's not much you could do about it. It's just sort of Witch Doctor facts. And then once the Maledict is there, there's 100% going to be kill threat on you
And
at bottom.
Parker very nearly taken down. King Tekka went in for the burrow, but didn't quite have enough damage to follow it up. The Morph actually used the waveform forward to make sure that they couldn't really get any further onto him, and it's not going to be enough for them to get the kill. But now A's in trouble. There's going to be that stun into stun once again. Gyro, though, holding his ground. Tano's the one dropping low, and they've got him. First blood to the side of Infamous. It got pretty close there in A. It does still die almost immediately afterwards, but that 1-for-1, incredibly valuable for the side of Infamous with the first blood bonus in their hands.
Oh, and it looks like he needs a few more last hits. I think just one more, but Parker's just going to be able to start immediately with a Morbid Mask, I think, and then he's just going to have that much more HP in lane and mid. Alone.
Alone? Is he going to take
He's got a suicide, but
yeah.
Still soul kill. That is massive. You get a
little
little bit more level. Now you're half a level up on top of that Queen of Pain. Unfortunately, you didn't get to nuke out that wave before you died, so you're not going to have that creep wave pushing in, so the co-op is just going to be able to get all these last hits, all these denies, and keep the creep wave on her own tower, so that part's a little bit unfortunate, but still, that's massive from Alone.
A big play there, and I mean, something that we're going to need to see more of from Alone, as Kara's going to get picked off in the top lane, but if that Storm can sort of make those plays on his own, they're going to be in a significantly stronger position, as Ryze is... Okay, never mind. If Mariano hits with the Timber Chain, maybe that's sort of something to be worried about. But as it stands, Ryze will be fine. He's just sort of waiting for his support to return to the lane. So, close call, but not quite able to get it. But they do at least take down that Witch Doctor. So, there's another kill on the board for that Infamous side. Just trying to get aggressive onto really whoever they can in this top lane. If you can't catch Ryzes, you might as well try and go for the easier target. Speaking of targets, KXY, this is a little risky, and he's dead. Maybe not. Blink up in 3. Can he somehow get away? The bottle charges won't be
gone.
Alone able to get it. Tano rotates in, and this is really kind of what we needed to see in game 1. Alone sort of found the solo pick first, then he gets a little bit of help in with the rotation for another kill, and I mean, you've got to activate the Storm Spirit as early and often as you can, as back in the top lane, Kara actually gets picked off again. So, I mentioned Mariano and Michael were just sort of going to go in onto the target that they knew was easier to pick off, but they are really hitting hard onto that Witch Doctor, and now Kara actually doesn't have his TP. He already used it, so he's going to smoke his way back into the lane, just hoping for that little bit of extra movement so he can get to Ryzes that little bit faster.
Yeah, and it is pretty unfortunate. At least Ryze is able to farm pretty much uncontested. It's just a little bit too much coming out, and he wants to be aggressive. He wants to hit up with that Lunar Blessing. It does so much damage, but there hasn't really been a good situation, and Mariano, he's got 2 levels in reactive. Yeah, they're just going to walk past each other. They know they can't really do anything.
It's going to be a waste of mana for them to try anything there. So, I suppose, as Mariano, really the same build we saw from him before. That same sort of 2-2 at level 4. Whirling Death, probably not going to come out for a while, but to a certain extent, he really doesn't need it. You take a look at him, we were talking about how well the Luna was farming. Mariano is right up there with her, and he's got a couple of assists to his name as well. So, this lane is honestly going pretty well for that Infamous side. Meanwhile, back down bot. Well, I don't really know how much Parker is going to be able to do here as they get the cookie stun, but he's already shifting. The strength gain should be enough. He's sitting on an 11-stack wand as well, so I really don't think they're going to be able to do too much to him. But now A, kind of in no man's land here. There's a couple of heroes between himself and the tower, but doesn't look like they wanted to go in for that one. King Tekka, honestly, I think could have tried in for the Burrow Strike, but there's not a lot of mana on Tano, so they didn't feel like they would have had the follow-up afterwards.
Yep, and Parker also shifting down, gets that 11 stick off, is just absolutely having a very nice time down here. Fortunately, Sand King offlane is one of the few heroes that is pretty much able to draw whatever lane he's in. Very few times does this hero get completely shut out. The best safe laner probably versus him is that anti-mage, just because you're just super duper obnoxious, but with Parker already having the Morbid Mask and the Raindrop, really any aggressive plays that they could have made onto this Morphling are more or less killed with that First Blood. He just is going to have too much HP, too much mana to work with. There really isn't a timing, and that's why I think we see A rotating, because now they need to put a little bit more pressure on this Storm. And he got the DD.
He was standing on top of it, but he just doesn't pick it up in time. Alone, well, able to zip his way out of that first round as well. But now, I don't know, KXY is here. He doesn't have a whole lot of mana, though. In fact, unless he pops the wand, he's not going to have the ult, but
I think he's dead now.
Try for it. Alone really doesn't have a lot of mana. He's going to try to zip onto the high ground. And now look at the
Here
TPs
comes the
coming in.
team.
Both of the supports want in, but there's going to be the Sonic
Oof.
Wave deployed. KXY was waiting the whole time for it. Kara and Tano dead alone is going to get picked off as well. That's a bait and a half there. KXY suspected that play was coming through, and I mean, that's just perfect. Waits for the exact moment he knows everyone's going to be right in that sort of line of fire and just mows them all down.
Yeah, and there really was no other way for him to do that, because even you zip dodge the crown, you have the double null instead of just those orchid components, so you try for the play, it doesn't work out, it just feels pretty unlucky, and now Rises is just getting walked back to his tier 2.
Oh, okay, that's a level 3 Shadow Realm, but not quite enough damage there. Rises will be able to fall back, but as you said, he's getting shoved off of this lane right now, and the early farm for the Luna, it's still there, but if this kind of pressure can be applied, then that's where life's going to get a little bit difficult. However, in fairness to Rises, the only reason he's in that situation alone in the top lane is because Kara TP'd mid to try and sort of take that fight. So with the Witch Doctor coming back in, I don't think they're going to have those same concerns. Rises should just sort of settle back into his sort of previous farming rhythm, and he's a little ways behind the likes of the Morphling and the Queen of Pain, but still sitting in the top 3. The Storm Spirit's actually a little bit further behind there, so I don't think they need to panic just yet, but it is going to be at least slightly concerning with these early deaths, as Kara fighting up with Michael here. They're going to just go for the ward, but now Michael needs to get himself away. Meanwhile, King Tekka down in the bottom lane was actually able to take down A. So they do pop that Gyrocopter. Parker, no points in the adaptive, so doesn't quite have as much damage. It doesn't have the stun either, so that's unfortunate for the Gyro, but now, oh god, he tried to go in for Tana, but again, without the adaptive strike, he's really missing that last little bit of nuke damage that he would have needed to finish that off.
And you look, King Tekka, it's got a 4-stack here, doesn't have any points in Caustic, unfortunately, but should be able to farm all of this with those 3 points in the Sandstorm. Parker's going to try to time his wave for him, though. It's level 3. He could probably get a lot of these, but he's going to put himself in a pretty dangerous spot after he does that.
Oh god, King Tekka just wants the fight. They're
Oh, he's calling
it.
it.
The Epi.
Oh.
But he's already got the attribute shifting, but here comes Alone into the fight. A, though, is going to join as well, but it's not going to matter. They will lose the Morph, and now A is trapped in between 4, trying to get some damage in onto that Sand King again, but it's not going to work out. Alone with the best timed TP that he possibly could have gotten there. He's in for both of those kills, and I mean, the Storm is starting to cook a little bit here. 4 and 2 for Alone at this point, and meanwhile, his teammate actually is in some trouble. Rice is getting now run not just out of his lane, but also out of the jungle. So it's a nice play from the Storm, but they have some difficulties elsewhere on the map. But still, big play for EgoBoys, able to make that one happen.
Just nerves of steel from King Tekka. Just sitting there in the Sandstorm, doesn't even know if he's under a sentry, which I think he was, so Parker knew about the play the entire time. Still makes it work, gets all those last hits as well. Just absolute beast. But yeah, Rises is getting pushed out pretty hard. He's not strong enough to really farm those Ancients just yet. We'll probably see him be able to farm those whenever he does have that Mask of Madness, but there really isn't a home for the Luna because she doesn't want to rotate into that bottom lane because, yep, Mariano is already down here. As soon as he gets to that tower, just never wasting time, is always getting out on the map. And Mariano does need to be careful because he goes for this Atos build. He's not going to have that Hood of Defiance. He definitely could fall to that Maledict, but they really need to gauge their damage well here. Is the Storm able to kill this Timbersaw? That's the real question that EgoBoys are asking themselves.
And at this point, it's not just a matter of do you have the damage to kill him, it's how quickly could you get that kill as well. They have to know that Infamous are at least going to have maybe a couple of TPs available. Whether they commit them or not sort of remains to be seen, but even if you can get the kill onto Mariano, if you take too long, you're going to sort of walk into a potential counter play as A. Lots Rises. They've got the Morphling sort of kind of making his way over, but I don't know about this one. But they could give it a shot, especially with Rises getting that much closer.
The bottom Orchid. They saw the Quap TPing in. Oh, this is a big bait if they kill Quap.
Jumping in onto it. Can KXY get away? He's going to drop down the Sonic Wave first. That will secure the kill onto King Tekka. The problem is he gets picked off himself, but back up in the jungle, A and Parker did make their move. In onto Rises as that Luna really did not have the means to defend herself. No point up in the Eclipse there. So they will lose KXY, but they do get 2 cores across the map in exchange, and it looks like Infamous really just going to be happy with that trade-off. Teamfight Recap actually doesn't include the death of the Luna there, but got to assume that that's going to swing a little bit of extra gold their way. A?
Oh.
Okay. Oh, wow. They're okay. Yeah, just straight up dropping the death ward there. They're not taking any chances. They wanted the kill, and they will get it. So, Gyrocopter taken down there, and not a whole lot Michael can do in exchange, but he does have teammates maybe coming in as Mariano wants to get into position. Timber chaining his way forward, throwing out the chakram, but Parker already threw out the adaptive strike, so he's not going to really push any further in himself.
Yeah, and you were still able to kill that Queen of Pain as soon as that Orchid's done. Feels really bad if you're KXY, even though you are sitting at the top of the net worth chart. As long as these kills can still be spun into Alone's hands, then he's going to have a pretty good time, but unfortunately...
Okay, King Tekka, that does not go well. Taken down right away. Parker, meanwhile, shifting his way to strength, still getting stunned up. Itano is going to drop a little bit lower as well, but now here comes Rises in with the Eclipse. They haven't finished off anyone just yet, and actually Alone is going to get pushed back by that strength adaptive strike. He will go down, and now EgoBoys are just straight up on the run, and they are not getting out. That's all 5 dead, not a single casualty for Infamous in that engagement.
And that just truly sucks that he was able to strength adaptive strike him into a Bramble on the Storm Spirit, so Alone doesn't have an escape plan, and because of how fast the Orchids come out from KXY, we are not going to see any aggressive Storm Spirit plays. He's just going for that Yule Scepter. He has become the loser of the matchup. And to that point, now KXY is going to explode farm-wise because this Orchid makes you farm so much faster than the Yule Scepter. So there are really some issues sort of emerging on the EgoBoys side already.
Unfortunate for them. We talked about how important it was going to be to try to get Alone going. And to be fair, 4-3-6. Right? He was 4-2 going into that last fight. Things were looking okay for him, but now this.
He needs to get
gonna
denied.
Get jumped in on. Can they somehow do it? Nope. Kara's not in position. And Alone will be picked off. So, I mean, this is just the way that Infamous really tends to play now. Since the temporary addition of Parker as that stand-in, they just really love to get right up in their opponent's faces. This faster pace for them compared to, I'd say, sort of the average pace they played with back when they had sort of Angel in the lineup. They're just really going at their opponents, and EgoBoys are not in a great position to respond, but they are, at least right now, looking towards that bottom lane. Mariano is still not done with the Atos yet, so I don't think he really wants to be here. He's already starting to back himself away, so EgoBoys, they may not be able to find a kill, but they could get this objective. That's going to be a nice bit of gold into their hands if they can secure it, but the glyph is going to be popped. The question is, does anyone actually TP down here?
And Mariano not leaving completely. He is still in this neck of the woods, but I think this is a pretty easy call to make. Again, you're playing in 2 lanes while your opponents are playing in 1 lane, and they could look for the defense. We see A walking over.
XYTP's in.
They gotta be a little bit cautious here, but Kisses.
Oh, no, okay. That's just going to be sort of a defensive measure. The problem is, I think you've given away your position, but Alone is going to zip in. They're going to go in onto A first, but even if they get this kill, that's only the gyro, and they haven't actually gotten it yet. The Terrorize comes through from Michael. A finally will get taken down. The Death Ward is now channeling out as well, so maybe, just maybe, EgoBoys can sort of hold their ground here as, oh god, Rises. Okay, in with the Eclipse, but that's not hitting
Michael,
anything.
he juked him.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
This is getting a little bit complicated. I don't know if EgoBoys want to keep going forward. They're tempted by that tower, but now
Nice
here comes
crown.
the TPs. KXY in as well for that nuke damage, and this is where it all goes wrong. They lose King Tekka, they'll lose Rises. Alone is going to zip his way in, and they do manage to take down Mariano in exchange. The problem is, now the Storm doesn't really have any backup. He's going to get hit up by that adaptive strike for the stun. Curse Crown is not actually going to be dodged here. Alone, he still had a little bit of mana left, but he doesn't actually get it off in time, so Michael locks him down. Michael gets the kill. And that's going to turn into a 4-for-1 as Infamous just continue to push forward. Excuse me, 4-for-2. A respawns so fast, I kind of forgot he died in the first place.
And that was without Sonic Wave. While you do lose the Timber Slot, he doesn't have the tanky build. If he has a hood, okay, I like Mariano's build, but if he has a hood, he's not dead there. He just gets to keep playing Timber Saw. So maybe a weakness shown in further series, but it really feels like now, if you're EgoBoys, everything that you were relying on in this game, Orchid timing coming out from Alone, the Blink Dagger coming out from King Tekka, you finally have it on that Sand King. It just feels staggered. It feels like they're not all going to be strong at their peak at the same time. And Rises, while you are on a much more useful hero...
They get baited.
Oh.
They tried to chase after Parker. He just shifted to strength, waiting for KXY and Michael to arrive, and that's it. They lose Alone. Tano's dead as well. Parker just stands strong and waits until backup arrives, and I mean, they're going to be able to get that kill. Now King Tekka's in some trouble as well. He's going to try to Sandstorm his way out of this one, but okay. Sandstorm buys him some time. He's able to burrow and blink himself back towards the middle lane, and it looks like he will live for now, but that's Alone going down again. So this Storm really is starting to drop off. That Yule Scepter just straight up does not give him the offensive firepower that he needs, but Is he really? Is he gonna do this? Yes, he is. They're going in for
You
it,
got
and
him.
they've got him. No, they don't.
Oh,
Parker.
just barely.
That.
Okay.
Oh, that's so painful. They just needed a little bit of extra damage. Maybe if Kara's in there for the Maledict, they get it, but the Maledict comes out now, but now it's obviously too late. Kara dead. King Tekka gone as well, and Parker once again surviving. Multiple attempts made on his life, and every time he's maybe not able to win the fight himself, but he can survive long enough for the backup to get there, and at that point Infamous just completely controlled, and now they're going to steal this Ancient stack as well. This was meant for Rises, but it's never going to reach him.
And it's just the build. He has the Sonic and Yasha. Any other item build, he goes for the Manta. He goes for maybe that Blade. He's dead there, 100%. And top, okay.
That's not a great Eclipse.
Still gonna lose your Luna.
That's the second time now the Eclipse has basically hit no one, but Alone is in onto A. Maybe they can get a kill onto the Gyrocopter here. They do at least find that one, and at this point Michael realizes he doesn't have any backup, but he also doesn't have a TP, so he just kind of has to sit here and maybe wait for a bit.
It's gonna be a long walk. This is all my attention is on Michael right now.
Does Kara see him though? No, he does not.
Oh, he's meeting up with Parker.
Yeah, Parker is going to go in looking for Tano. That is going to mean Michael basically sacrificing himself, but now, uh-oh. Alone. Hit up by that Orchid. Can they bring him down in time? Not just yet. Dual Scepter comes through. Sonic Wave, though, deployed onto Tano. Going to be able to take him down.
Perfect.
Jesus, it's just, I mean, every single time Infamous are making just no mistakes. There is no weak point for EgoBoys to really take advantage of, as they're just continuously getting outplayed in these fights.
And the punishment was there. You had the Sand King TP in. He was able to use his Blink Dagger, but you didn't have the Epicenter. So everybody on Infamous, who they all have so many kills, and even though Mariano and Parker are only sitting at 4, that's enough for those heroes. We have 9 kills on Michael. I don't know if he's still beyond godlike, but it just feels like they have so much farm on everyone. There's no weak link. And that's where EgoBoys, you have to wait. You have to play in these side lanes. You have to bide your time. But this Alone Storm Spirit, it just doesn't feel like this is going to do anything for the next 10 minutes. You need to get an Arcane Rune, you need to get lucky, you need to somehow get that map control back. You're going for a Kai Assange into Ags because you know you sort of messed up. You're kind of stuck in this game now, and
okay.
Yeah, he just zip TP in waves. There's not much he can do besides that.
If you have to zip TP waves pre 20 minutes, you know something is going not great for your squad. And speaking of not great, what's going on here? Silence in onto the Sand King. They're just going to go in for this. The call down will be deployed. KXY doesn't have that Sonic Wave, though, so looks like King Tekka will survive for now, or maybe not. Michael is in there with the Terrorize. The Death Ward is, I mean, it's going, but I don't think it's going to matter. A will simply TP himself home. He's the one who took the brunt of that damage, and the Fountain Regen's going to really just keep him alive. Maledict can't take him down, and EgoBoys will lose yet another fight. They really just can't afford to take these, but in a lot of these situations, they don't have a choice. Once KXY's in there with the blink and the silence, their hero's just straight up trapped.
And it's just the immediate collapse. Every single hero on the Infamous side is always so close at all times. They can always get there, do something, have some effect. And now KXY has a Kai Assange. This is another hero that you're gonna struggle to burst. And I'm looking at the damage coming out from EgoBoys, and the most aggressive hero they have that is being sort of built up is Rises getting more points in Lucent Beam. That is your silver lining. And KXY?
Okay.
Is he just gonna blink?
Give it a go, but yeah, he'll just blink out. The silence is there onto Alone to prevent him from zipping further forward. And I mean, he had a Eul's, but he didn't want to use it to purge away that silence, and because of that, they can't go in. They can't go any further for that kill. KXY just blinks away and walks home.
And yet again, they're getting away with 3 lanes. They're getting all of this farm. They're pulling ahead on all of their cores so much. And Rises, he's taking all the space he can. But in this game, you're having to split it because now your Storm Spirit is trying to recover. He's trying to find anything. He's still buying clarities because it feels like he needs to stay out on the map, look for those opportunities as far and few between as they are. And this just feels awful. It feels crippling. And now, once there's going to be an Aegis, I can only assume on KXY, yeah, because they don't think that Parker's going to die because he has a fully completed Lincoln Sphere. And, okay, got the blink out on King Tekka, but they just hit every single item timing so hard. They always play so differently once they get these, where it feels like EgoBoys, they just get stuck in a rut.
Kara's going to get picked off here. No way out for him. Meanwhile, Tano.
Ooh.
Okay. TP away. Yeah. Parker was maybe trying to get in there, and if he's maybe a second or two earlier, the Adaptive Strike could have come into play, but not quite able to do it. So Tano gets away, Kara, though, picked off, and Infamous are looking to push their way forward once again. 12k net worth lead for them. They got the Aegis in hand, and really, as of right now, there's not a whole lot that they need to be afraid of. Rises does not have the damage or the durability to stand in these fights, and to a certain extent, Alone really is in sort of a similar position. He's just not quite strong enough. Why?
Oh no, he didn't zip TP. He didn't do anything. He's spinning.
Why?
Yeah. I think when you see him spinning there after the root, you're like, yeah, I did this. I'm stuck here. Just take me. And they're trying to get the creep cut going. Tano's looking for the wave, and he will be able to drag it and kill it off, but that's all they have. They have creep cutting. They have biding their time, sitting on their hands, waiting for Rises to get this BKB. But this isn't your Manta BKB Luna. This is Mom BKB Luna. This is not going to feel very impactful. And with the Aegis up on KXY, he can afford to be a little bit crazy. He can afford to just go in. If he dies once, it doesn't matter too much. But he's already struggling to die this the first time. He's got 2100 HP with this Kai Assange, and every single time they get grabbed, they just start spinning around in circles. I think EgoBoys are sort of getting sick of this game as well.
Yeah, it's just a constant sort of, well, not even really a back and forth. It's just possibly their opponents pushing in as KingTeka is going to get stunned up. Good morph in from the Morphling, going for that stolen burrow. KingTeka is going to be able to keep himself alive for now, but with the right clicks coming in and yeah, the Rod of Atos applied, he's just straight up gone. And now they want
immediate
onto
stun,
Alone.
immediate Orchid.
Dual Scepter though, keeping him alive, but he's directly, well, directly over the Chakram is what I was going to say, but Mariano actually sort of pulls it back there, and he's going to be the one who gets taken down. So they do take out the Timbersaw. The problem is Parker and KXY are continuing to lay hits in onto this tier 3 tower, and Tano's not in position to really sort of cut that creep wave again. So they should be able to get this down, but here comes Alone, zipping his way forward. Tries to pop the Lincolns, okay, but the real target here is KXY. They're going to try to get in onto him. Can they finish off the Aegis? Yes, they can, but it's the Aegis. That means that the Queen of Pain is coming back up here, but looks like at this point they're going to show a little bit of respect to their opponent's lineup here. They don't want to get too far forward. They take the tier 3, but they're not able to actually get in onto the racks.
Yeah, and just a little bit of respect coming out from Infamous, and Mariano really just dying because A, his build, and B, because the glyph was finally forced out. So if they want to make that play again, they very easily could. Parker is,
okay, Parker.
He's playing.
He's just going to man
There's a
up
lot of
here,
damage,
but,
though.
Yeah, that was maybe a little bit too much there. Didn't realize he was going up against 5 until he's already surrounded, and the Lincolns doesn't block everything, as he will be taken down, but now they're looking for revenge. They want in onto the Sand King. KingTeka is going to get jumped in on, as they will be able to stun him up. Hit him with the Brambles as well, and that is going to be KingTeka down, but now Rises into the fight. BKB active. You got the Storm Spirit sort of going to work on the backline here as well, and Mariano is sort of in a bit of a bad way, as we sort of repeatedly mentioned. He doesn't really have that durability, but he does certainly have some damage. Able to get in there. Tano will be locked down, and they want a little bit more. Kara dropping low as well. He will tick out to the DOT, and now Rises without the BKB. He can't get back home. He's going to be finished off. Mariano, that's way too little HP, but he is going to be able to get away. Picks up the triple. Alone, though, I mean, he wants it, but he didn't actually guess correctly, and now, yeah, he has no TP and very little mana.
They guessed wrong? Okay. He's juking the creep wave? Okay.
What a weird
He's
play.
a mastermind.
Okay.
I mean, if he has to Yules himself, he might be out of the... Let's see. We're going to make him work for this, but...
Tano's TPing in, going to try to help out. There's going to be the Yules.
Into the Bramble.
He's still dropping low, but KingTeka's in there. He's going to go for the burrow. Alone gets away. Now KXY might want to try and back off here, but the Yule Scepter will put him up in the air. We see a TP coming in from Kara as well, but by that point, KXY is able to get himself away. So neither of the mid laners will die there, but it was pretty close. If it weren't for the intervention of his teammates, Alone almost certainly would have died in that fight.
And a little bit of sloppy play coming in from Infamous. Even after all of those deaths, still 15k gold lead. Really, the numbers didn't shift at all. Now Kara, he's just trying to do his job. He's just trying to get some vision down. It's just impossible. And we could be seeing them just go for that maybe 30k gold lead, wait to get another Aegis, and then break the base. Or, man, you're trying to think of reasons or openings for EgoBoys to get at this point, but I don't think farming will really solve their issue. Your biggest item coming out is that Kai Assange on the Storm Spirit. He's going to have a little bit more mana to work with, but KingTeka has not been able to play Dota. They have not been able to find these backlines. They've not been able to find the picks. If they killed the Dark Willow, they'd get like 600 or 700 gold, but they're just not able to find these targets. And it just feels like this is what EgoBoys have struggled with pretty much the entire tournament. They just kind of slink down in their chairs, let the plays happen. It feels like very few times they're able to get that first initiation.
Yeah, they're just not really able to do a whole lot for themselves. And honestly, that play that we were just sort of witnessing there sort of encapsulates all of this. King Tekka faked out the epicenter, I think, about 15 times here in the east side jungle. And while he's doing that, he's directly underneath this Obzor's vision. So just sort of the ultimate maybe symbol of the way this has gone. King Tekka's not even farming. He's just faking out his own ult while really just kind of standing there. And Infamous see him doing it the whole time and really just don't care. So that's the game in a nutshell. Infamous are doing anything they want. They know EgoBoys have such limited options that really they're not afraid of anything. I think they know at this point the only way they lose this game is if they're the squad to make the mistake. So, I mean, we've seen a little bit of sloppiness from them over the last couple of minutes, but for the most part, it's been clean enough for them to sort of maintain this sizable advantage, and I don't really see them making a big enough mistake anytime soon to really let their opponents back into it.
And that's where we see maybe them just farm up, be a little bit patient, not do anything too risky, and KXY. Okay.
Okay, they're going to go for it. KXY has the Shroud. He will pop it here, but he's already lost a lot of HP, and yeah, he's going to be taking down Mariano now. Might be in some trouble as well, but he's going to be able to Timber Chain himself down to the low ground. He's still surrounded, though, but A is coming in to try and help him out. The homing missile's in onto King Tekka, so that Sand King sort of has to back off for a moment, but as he does, Mariano wants in. He's looking for the fight. They're going to be able to spot out Tano here, or maybe not, actually sort of sneaks by them, but these two supports are in some serious trouble on the back line, while their cores still getting jumped in on really further forward as A sort of gets in there for the damage, and Parker comes in to finish things off with the DD room. So
oh
Rises
no,
will go down. Oh no, did he zip? He did. He zipped into the bramble.
Scary.
Oof. To get himself away with the last bits of his mana, but plays like that just sort of get the heart rate going there, as EgoBoys can't really afford to lose alone. It's already looking a little bit rough for them in terms of a comeback, but if they lose that storm, then really there's just no hope whatsoever. So Alone cannot afford to go down here, but
the Morph, he's just too strong. He's got so many targets. He could be the Gyro, he could be the Willow. He does so much damage, and this is all 4v5. There's no co-op. They don't really need her, I guess.
EgoBoys, I mean, this is an elimination game for them, so they're not really going to go down without maybe one final fight, but it's just looking so hard for them. We said before, it just feels like the only way EgoBoys get back in is if Infamous sort of hand it to them, and I mean, they're going after Rax right now, so they're really just sort of looking to be a bit more thorough and alone. But this is all he can do. Zip in. Maybe he can get this kill onto A, but he's got to be careful. The brambles will be thrown down. Michael was sort of faking out the terrorize there as well, so they really can't go too far forward. A, though, you might want to be careful, but he's got himself both the Hood of Defiance and the Glimmer Cape. So in terms of magic resistance, he should be just fine. And now this is where it all falls apart. They will lose. King Tekka alone is forced immediately to back himself away, but now they're going to be able to hit up the Luna with that root from the Rod of Atos. The BKB will be forced out, but now there's no fight to follow it up. There was no Eclipse there either, so the BKB's down, and Rises really doesn't have anything to do if this turns into another engagement. As alone, he's just going to keep on zipping.
And Parker, he can basically just wait. There's no threat on his life. There's no way he really dies, especially when the epicenter, when the Sand King's dead. Then there really isn't any way he dies. And Tano, two-shot, yep. We're just kind of barreling towards that eventuality where maybe this Roshi spawns, maybe it doesn't. If EgoBoys give up a few more kills, then I'm positive Infamous could just close out the game. Or they could finish up the Satanic on the Morphling, wait for another Aegis, and then EgoBoys really don't have a shot at that point. And Alone, he's 2 components away from his Aghanim Scepter. That's cool. Maybe he's going to be able to get something. There's an Aghanim Scepter finished up on the Sand King as well, so there's that Caustic Finale damage. But again, with the Sand King, if you have to blow your big spell for just an Aegis, that's where the game sort of just ends. You don't have enough damage in the by. And they might just get this last tier 2 tower bottom, force EgoBoys back into their base. EgoBoys know how important this Roshan is. That's why they've sort of stuck their necks out and try to get a little bit of control back in their side. But as soon as they start to threaten this high ground, someone's got to be here to greet them at the front door.
Yeah, if they don't have defenders here, then that's really going to be the tier 3 tower just sort of barreled through immediately, and then the Rax will suddenly be under attack. So, Rises, okay.
Oh, forced to use BKB.
Yeah, that's a problem. Morphed into his teammate, has access to that Cursed Crown, so
he's got an Arcane Rune too. Rises has to be so careful.
Oh
no.
Parker's in. Does he have the damage? Not quite yet, but now the response will come through. They're going to try and get this done. They've got the Eclipse down, but
Nice
it's not
chain.
going to be enough. Look at that
But,
Terrorize
yeah.
coming through. It's just too big. Michael's able to turn it around. Tano gets taken out as well, and Tano doesn't have buyback right now. It's still on cooldown for 5 minutes, so Infamous are just going to march their way forward. They're looking for that final lane of racks, and EgoBoys at this point are going to have to put together some sort of last-ditch effort to defend this. But they do jump in onto the Gyrocopter, going to be able to pull A in there, but that Glimmer Cape, again, reducing a lot of that damage, but it won't be enough to keep him alive. So they do find that kill, but now King Tekka in some trouble. The morph from Parker gets him into that Sand King, goes in for the Burrow Strike, and the Waveform will be there to finish it off. So King Tekka's dead for 60. They're in onto the Storm as well, alone, trying to buy time with that Eul Scepter. Can he zip back to the fountain? No, he's actually going to get silenced first.
Booms. Yeah, the shard. And we're barreling towards the end of the game here. Another stun in.
They're just getting absolutely annihilated here. Mariano does go down. He's going to buy back there just to make sure he can sort of get back to his teammates. As maybe Infamous might want to back it away now. Nope. Here comes Parker back in with the Burrow, trying to sort of bully up Kara here on that back line. Rice is sort of getting pushed back as well. And meanwhile, alone all the way forward, he's going to get silenced up. The Curse Crown is on him, so he's going to get stunned up. He does finish off KXY though before he dies, but that is going to be his dieback, and at this point, the game is pretty much over. Kara will fall, the Witch Doctor will buy back, but it's just him and Rises against the world here, and it's really not a fight that they win. Kara, though, points for the effort, going to throw out the Death Ward, but it's not going to be enough, and there will be the GG.
Rises, he's out. And Sand King, they've all left.
Yeah, the GG called. EgoBoys will concede defeat here, and it's another 50-kill performance for Infamous. Just like Game 1, they hit that milestone once again.
And they really just worked them apart. And EgoBoys, again, we talk about it, their drafts are not bad. Their players are not bad. Individually, they are a strong team. And I think they're one of the teams in that Div 1 SA you've got to look for it, because I don't think that they should get relegated. I think that these are one of the squads that can definitely improve, but starting off on the wrong foot, having a stand-in, not having your player, having all of the issues that sort of come with that, struggling to have those standout performances, playing versus a lot of these Div 1 teams. EgoBoys, it really did feel like they got the short end of the stick, and then matching up versus Infamous, another Div 1 SA team that you've got to beat up. And we'll see, maybe there'll be a grudge forming, maybe we'll get sort of that matchup later on in the season, but I don't think they're too surprised with their performance in this tournament. Group stage was kind of a mess. This was also kind of a mess, but you know, there's got to be hope. They've once they get your keel back, I can only imagine that something's got to click for them. They just were missing that one piece to their puzzle that really should have solved their issues, or could have solved their issues, because there's such a groundwork. This team could be so good. They just need that little bit more experience, that little bit more time.
Yeah, I think, as you said, we talked about it sort of on the back end of the group stage as well. That was one of the things that's the most frustrating about EgoBoys. They've got talent, you know, they've got what appears to be chemistry outside of the stand-in situation. It's just, they're not quite hitting that potential just yet, but you know that that potential is there for them. So, I don't know. This event was really not the greatest showcasing of their overall skill level, but I think we're going to see more from them when we actually get to those TI regionals. I think that's where EgoBoys can really sort of get themselves back into better shape, and by that point, hopefully their roster situation will have been potentially sort of finalized as well. So we should be seeing better from them, but as of right now, EgoBoys are going to be that first team eliminated from this event. So they do go down in that first elimination matchup. Congratulations to Infamous, as they really just shoved their way through. That matchup was kind of brutal. 100 kills across 2 games for them, and now they get the chance to play up against Hikori again in a matchup that already has some history attached to it, so that is going to make for a rather interesting matchup moving forward. And
yeah,
I do believe we are getting ourselves an interview coming up here, so we are going to be waiting just a little bit before we sort of throw it fully into that commercial break. But while we wait for the Infamous side to sort of get their player that they would like for the interview process, we will give you a quick word from the sponsor of this event. It is time for another message from LootBet. New users can get a 100% bonus on their first deposit up to 150 euros. Use code PRO, that is PRO, on LootBet. Meanwhile, existing users can also find more promotions when they visit LootBet as well. So Thank you to LootBet for sponsoring this event. They've been providing the odds that we've been seeing throughout the event as well, so having those pop up on the screen for those of you of the betting persuasion. And as always, if you do use LootBet and opt to use that promo code, please do remember to bet responsibly. So thank you very much to LootBet, and we are still waiting on word for that interview here. So we've got ourselves, I believe, a little bit of time, just trying to sort of get... Who are we getting here? I believe it might be Mariano that's doing the interview for us, so might get to talk to him. Back-to-back Timbersaw games in the series here. I think it was a combined stat line of like 23-4 for him, something along those lines. So will be nice to sort of pick his brain about, well, the games, the matchup, moving forward to Hikori as well. If we do manage to get him in here, and actually I think I undersold him. It was 26-4, not 23. So even stronger there for Mariano as he was able to help lead his team to a victory. So I do believe we're still setting up here. So actually we're going to sort of throw it back to that intermission screen, and we'll be bringing you that interview in just a little bit. So sit tight, and we'll have a member of Infamous to talk to in just a little bit. Okay, there we go. Hello, everybody. We are back. I believe we do now have the man of the hour here for that interview as we are getting Mariano in here. So just give me one moment to get him into the interview room and we will get this one started. Uh, Hello, Mariano. Are you there?
Hello, yes, yes, I'm here.
All right, there we go. Thank you very much for talking to us. First and foremost, congratulations on your victory here in this series. Just a dominant performance for you and your squad. You were looking pretty much unstoppable out there.
Yeah, thank you. We feel pretty good about it. We got like 100 kills between the two games, so that's the game we like to play.
Yes, yes, you did. And actually, we want to sort of talk about that sort of initially. You guys playing up against EgoBoys, a team that you 2-0'd in the group stage. Did that factor into the way you wanted to play? Obviously, you ended up putting a pretty fast pace out there. Did you have that confidence sort of based on your last matchup against this team, or was that just the way you wanted to play no matter what?
Not really. Like we try to carry a mentality of playing game by game, so they could easily 2-0 us if they change some things up and play better. But we still take the game as it is. We go into the game and play our best. So it didn't really mean anything to us that we 2-0 them in the group stage. So we just played our game, and we think we are better than them. So we just execute it as well as we can.
And I guess as a bit of a sort of follow up to that question, playing up against EgoBoys, another team sort of from your home region, a team that maybe you're slightly more familiar with, does getting wins against sort of your own regional rivals, does that have more meaning? Is there anything more significant attached to it compared to maybe wins against some of the NA squads in the field for this event?
Well, it could be meaningful if it carries on to them, like having some kind of extra respect for us in the next qualifiers for TI. Like we want to make a statement in this tournament that we're not gonna uh, let any game slide, so because the qualifiers for TI, every game is going to be super important, so it's kind of a preparation for that. So we really want to win against every team, but mostly SA teams is like really important.
Added importance to those regional matchups. I do want to ask you also a little something about your sort of roster situation right now. You guys have been playing with Parker throughout the majority of this event. It's looked like it's been going pretty well for you so far, but has there been any sort of necessary major adjustment to you guys style wise, hero pool, drafting? How has Parker sort of slotted in for you in terms of the way you want to play now?
um, we did like minor gameplay changes, like maybe he participates in the game a little bit more than Pakas before, but I think we still have the same mentality, and Parker thinks about the game like pretty similar that we do. So uh, he fits really well into the team. I would say like his playstyle is very similar to every other player that we have. So that's really good for us. Honestly, we were lucky.
It really seems like he's slotting into the lineup quite nicely for you. Uh, One last question, at least on my end, then I'll let ET actually get a word in if you would like. I do have to ask here. The Gyrocopter 5, you ran it in both of the games. It is a hero right now that really no other team in the field, at least for this event, has really been running. Do you feel right now like that kind of strategy with the Gyrocopter as that support in A's hands, is it undervalued? Are other teams just not considering it enough? Or do you feel it's something that maybe your team specializes in that's just unique to you guys right now?
I think every team has unique heroes. Like every team will prioritize different heroes that matches their playstyle. Like you're not gonna see four summers playing gyro. Maybe they will, but a team that likes to play a little bit more into the late game and later combos, they will not pick a fast-paced hero like gyro. So it's most like due to the playstyle of the team that they're not gonna pick gyro. But I think the hero is pretty good. It has an ultimate for team fight. It's super strong in lane with some combinations. I think for us, it's one of the best heroes, I would say, for 5.
Results certainly sort of speaking for themselves when you pick up that hero as well. So, ET, you got anything you want to sort of toss in here as
And
well?
I mean, I really only have one thing on my mind. Now, Mariano, you're up versus Hikori, a team that's sort of given you guys trouble in the past. Even though you were really far ahead of them in SADPC, it's probably going to have some ramifications coming into those TI quals. Why do you think you struggle versus that team? Do you think the changes you've made over this tournament specifically? I know a lot of teams are using this as practice, sort of gearing up for those TI qualities. Why do you think you sort of fall short versus them?
Uh, I think their playstyle is a little bit similar to the Beast Coast playstyle, and they have some annoying heroes that we usually have like issues dealing with them.
Mhm.
So like that playstyle is one of that makes us, makes our games harder. So I think it's just that their playstyle matchups pretty well against us, but they changed their mid laner, so now they're playing a little bit different. I think we can do way better than before against them in the next matches.
Okay, I'm excited to see it. That's definitely the matchup that I'm looking for in lower brackets. So hope you're going to be able to pull out another 50 kill game, make a third one
Yeah,
on the board.
we will try for sure.
But
Well,
yeah, I think that's all from me. But thank you so much for talking with us. It was very insightful.
Thank you guys for the interview.
well, thank you very much to Mariano there for stepping in and agreeing to do that interview with us. Always nice to honestly just get some insight from some of these players. I mean, we get to see it obviously through the spectating perspective, but actually hear it from the players themselves always sort of adds that little bit more to it. So thank you to Mariano. Thank you to Infamous for agreeing to that interview as well. And, well, wish them luck in that next round. They're going to be facing off against that Hikori squad in a bit of a rematch of really their series both in the group stage and back in the sort of pro circuit. So hopefully they can, again, as ET said, maybe put up another 50 kill performance. For now, though, we are going to be hopping into a bit of a break. We are getting ready for that second series of the day. We'll be shifting, excuse me, we will be shifting away from the North or South American region to NA, as we will be checking out Simply 2 based taking on the Cut in our second elimination series of the day. So thank you one last time to Infamous and Mariano for speaking with us, and we are going to be getting ready for that next series. Should be coming your way in just a little bit, so sit tight. We will be hopping back into the action as quickly as we can.